I left there, and within 48 hours, my toe looked like it was from another planet.
I've had clients that have said that they've had tears running down their face and that it's hurt and that it's burned, and they are told that that is what the process is like.
I've seen clients with staph infections from places. I've seen them with scabies. I've seen them with MRSA. I've seen them with all sorts of infections from unclean implements, you know, tweezers, even tweezers not clean, your tweezers can do this. And not to mention, I mean, I have a client who almost lost her toe from a nail salon and getting staph infection. I mean, you really have to be cautious when you walk in and look around as a consumer now to make sure you're protecting yourself, because no one's protecting you. So I've heard of places, you know, not even using gloves. And, you know, I've been waxing people before, and, you know, they're like, oh, I've got this ingrown hair, and you know, take the hair and you look and you're like, wow, okay, I have to stop what I'm doing, because this doesn't just look like an ingrown hair, it looks like an infection of some kind, and you have to stop what you're doing, refer them out to a doctor. If you're uneducated and you're not cleaning your tools and you're double dipping your wax, gross, I mean, you could be spreading that bacteria, that infection, all over your salon, and there's no one checking up to make sure this isn't happening.
There's a bunch of my girlfriends that were getting their nails done, and I went in and got nails put on, and they looked okay. There was a lot of cutting of the cuticles and things like that, but she was training, and it was free. A couple days later, I got a couple black spots that started on my fingertip, and then from there they got bigger, and then my finger started swelling, and then I ended up getting a red line going up my arm. And so I went to the emergency room, and they marked where the red line was. They gave me some antibiotics and sent me home, and told me to come back if the line had gotten any higher. And the next day it was higher, and so I went back, and it was more swollen, and they had to essentially cut a hole through the tip of my finger to drain the fluid that was in there, and then put a wick through it, so it's a string going right through the middle of my fingertip. And I had to leave it in there for 3 to 4 days. It's come back twice since the initial time, so there's been 3 different situations where I've had to go to the doctor, get the finger cut open, and it swells, and so now there's not much feeling in the tip of this finger anymore. And who knows if it's ever going to come back again? I have no idea.
I am a diabetic, and I tell them when I go in. I go to an internist, so people say, well, diabetics should never get a pedicure. True if you're not a healthy diabetic, just like anything, if you're sickly, if your immune system, you shouldn't be going to anything, you know what I mean? But I disclose when I get there that I'm a diabetic, so they know better than I don't use the scrubbers on my feet. Do you know what I mean? I am there for a purpose, and I control my diabetes. So in my case, what happened is, instead of clipping the cuticle, she clipped the edge of my skin on my second toe, and I bled. Wide open cut. So what do you do when you're bleeding everywhere? I stuck my foot back into the water. Within 48 hours, my foot was on fire. It was hot, so you knew there was an infection. And I had x-rays and everything right away, you know, thinking, did you break your toe? Did you, everything was where it belonged, but not by the time I was done. In about 6 weeks, I was finally on the strongest antibiotic you can use, which is Levaquin, without being put on a infusion or IV antibiotic, which I was on for many months. Had to have 2 MRIs, and it looked like I was getting osteomyelitis, which is an infection of the bone. It was gone into my bone of my second toe. If I wasn't going to get control of that, then I was going to have my second toe removed. So by the time I was done with this huge infection, it had dislocated the 3 toes from my foot. So in December, I had foot surgery, which they had to cut out the knuckles of my toes and fuse my big toe to keep my foot in place. What I learned is, when I got cut and what was in that water, from not just me, everybody, and who knows what, and I was just susceptible, and that's the reason I got the infection, is because I got cut. And if she would have known what she was doing, she cut me, we should have been done. She should have wrapped my foot. If I would have known also what I know now, my foot would never have gone in that water.
The number one thing I said was, can I see a picture of her? Because if she is infected and I can see redness in any form of an infection, that is way above anything that I would even attempt to or feel comfortable, helping. And then we would have her go to the emergency room. The worst ever that I've seen was about 2 years ago, and she did have her lashes done at a nail salon. She had called 3 or 4 places and they couldn't get her in, and this place could get her in. So she said that she went there that night and her lashes were done with her eyes totally open. She had tears running down her face, and she said that it did burn, and she questioned them, and they said that this was normal. When I saw her, she had a wall of black over her eyes. It was solid from stem to stern. The girl physically had to lift her head up so that she could see you, because her lashes were so long and such a wall that she couldn't see you, because it was like somebody took a piece of cardboard and put it over the top. Her husband had clipped her lashes off to make them shorter, so now we had a solid thick wall from here to here. Again, in the picture, she wasn't infected, so I had her come in, and I told her I would do the best I could, because if she went to the ER, they would have just snipped her lashes straight off. The main reason that she wanted her lashes done is she wanted to look nice for her husband. He had been overseas with the military, and the whole point was that when he walked off the plane, that she would look beautiful and feel good about herself. And then to have someone who wasn't trained, someone who wasn't licensed, actually take advantage of her. She was a victim. She was a victim, and it was really sad.